Good morning, everyone. If you are able to hear or see me right now, you've just joined our California High-Speed Rail Authority public scoping meeting for the Los Angeles to Anaheim project section. We'll be starting in just a minute. Want to make sure all of our attendees have a chance to join and see our screen. We are now broadcasting, and we'll be walking you through a program. I'll review all of our instructions and information in just a moment. Once again, welcome and good morning. On behalf of the California High-Speed Rail Authority, welcome, bienvenidos, to our formal public scoping meeting for the Los Angeles to Anaheim project section. My name is Genoveva Arellano, and as moderator of the Authority's public outreach team, I'll be here with you today to walk you through our public information, introduce our panelists, and to receive your formal public comments for our scoping meeting today. First, I would like to give you some background information on the program, what is California High-Speed Rail here in California, and the specific project information for the Los Angeles to Anaheim project section. Today's public scoping meeting covers the entire project area between Los Angeles and Anaheim, and further to the east, including Colton and Lenwood, which are new project components to the Los Angeles to Anaheim project section for high-speed rail. As many of you know, the California High-Speed Rail program has been in the planning stages for many years, actually since the 1990s. In 2008, California voters passed Proposition 1A, which allowed it to move forward with planning and obtaining funding for construction. Steadily, the project has moved forward, and the first phase is actually already under construction in California's Central Valley. Today, we are discussing the Los Angeles to Anaheim project section, which is one of 4 Southern California sections and will provide a vital link between Los Angeles Union Station and the Anaheim Regional Transportation Intermodal Center, otherwise known as ARTIC. While we have previously conducted scoping for this project section, the Authority, through its partnership with BNSF Railway, identified the need to incorporate 2 new project components in the Inland Empire as part of the project. We know that the low sand corridor, where the high-speed train will travel, is vital to current and future passenger rail and goods movement for not just the immediate area, but well beyond. Therefore, it became necessary to develop a strategy to avoid interrupting operations in this very important corridor during high-speed rail construction and to accommodate future freight service, high-speed rail service, and other passenger rail service for high-speed rail after construction. The addition of these 2 new project components in Colton and Lenwood serve this goal and will be included in the project description as part of the environmental documents. This required the development of a revised notice of preparation and notice of intent, which is what we are talking about here today, and today's scoping period, including today's meeting. This all brings us here today. The Authority has been conducting extended outreach to make sure our affected public is aware and has access to this latest project information. It has been the practice of the Authority to do extensive outreach over these years as the main corridor between Los Angeles and Anaheim has been developed, and now we are extending that to the Inland Empire to make sure the full community is aware of the full project description as it's now presented. Before I review the specific online and phone instructions for you today, I would like for our project team from the California High-Speed Rail and the BNSF Railway to introduce themselves. They are here to receive your formal comments, so they are listening for the concerns and issues and comments that you have today in relation to this project. They can also answer general questions about the project, but nothing more specific, as the analysis and the impacts are not yet known about the full project description. So with that, I would like first our presenters to introduce themselves one by one. Ofelia, if you can start.
Happy Saturday, everyone. My name is Ofelia Alcantara. I'm the Deputy Director of Strategic Delivery and also the Interim Regional Director for the LA to the Anaheim section.
Excellent. Thank you, Ofelia. Ofelia will be giving us our statewide information. Next, we have Diane.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Diane Ricard, and I am the project manager on behalf of High Speed Rail for the Los Angeles to Anaheim section. Thank you for joining us this morning. We know you have choices for your Saturday morning, and we appreciate you spending it with us.
Excellent. Thank you, Diane. Diane will be walking us through the specific project information on today's presentation. And next we have Lena. Lena.
Good morning. I'm Lena Kent. I'm the Director of Public Affairs for the BNSF Railway. And like the other panelist had indicated, I also want to say thank you for spending your Saturday morning with us. We know you do have a lot on your schedule, and the fact that you took the time out of your busy day to come and hear more about this project and provide your comments is really important. So again, thank you, and we look forward to spending the next few hours with you.
Excellent. Thank you, Lena. Of course, Lena will be walking us through information on our PowerPoint in relation to the two new project components. And then we also have Tyler Bonstead, who's another team member who's available to also hear your comments and answer any questions that may pertain to him. Tyler, can you introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. I'm Tyler Bonstead. I'm the project manager for the consultant team that is doing the engineering and environmental analysis from this project. And thanks for being with us today.
Excellent. Thanks to you all. Again, we will be walking you through a presentation and look forward to receive your comments about the project. So today is the second of two virtual public scoping meetings that we have held, which are formal opportunities for you to provide the authority with your comments about the scope of this upcoming environmental document. That is the exact purpose of public scoping. These meetings and the formal 30-day public comment period, which commenced Tuesday, August 25th, and will conclude on Thursday, September 24th. These were announced through two formal notices, which are the Notice to Proceed, we also call that the NOP, and the Notice of Intent, or otherwise known as the NOI. These notices and this entire environmental process are required by both state and federal law, respectively. And if not already, I encourage you to read these documents as they contain all the information publicly available about this proposed project, including its purpose, its need, and the alternatives that are being considered. And these documents are not too lengthy. The NOP is 11 pages long and the NOI is 5 pages long. Again, these are the primary source of information for you about this project. I'll be navigating through our project website a little later so you can see how to retrieve those documents and download them if you so choose. These notices and actually all of the information that's currently available on the project is on our specific project website. And let me give you that web address. I'll be repeating it throughout today's meeting. That project specific website is meethsrsocal.org. And let me repeat that, meethsrsocal.org. And let me spell that. It's meethsrsocal.org. Again, I'll be showing that to you a little later so that you can see the information that's available to you. It's really a great resource for you to visit now to inform yourself about the project and prepare any formal comment that you would like to make for us. Again, the deadline to receive comments in relation to our public scoping period is Thursday, September 24th, so another week and a half or so. Also, the documents, the NOP and the NOI are available in 5 other languages on the website as well, and I'll be showing that to you. These languages include Spanish, Tagalog, Japanese, Korean, and Chinese. Again, the NOP and NOI have been available for public review since Tuesday, August 25th, and all formal public comments are due to us by Thursday, September 24th. There are additional ways for you to provide us your formal comments besides today's scoping meeting, which I will review during our presentation and we will repeat throughout the meeting, along with how to access the project website, how to schedule an office hour appointment if you so choose, and other information. In addition, prior to the release of the draft environmental document, which will be next year, we'll go over that schedule with you during the presentation, There will be another round of open house meetings or forums for you to receive additional public information at that time. And that will be to provide you a project update and help you get ready for the release of the environmental document. Now that document is quite voluminous. These are legally required documents which outline in specific detail the impacts of the project, the mitigations associated with the project, and all the proposed plans, including maps and graphics and other project information. So that is the process that we're in right now, is leading up to that release of the environmental document and getting you and all those who are affected ready to receive that and to see what is being proposed. Currently, we are looking to conduct the open house meetings in the spring of next year of 2021, and the format of those meetings will be contingent upon where we are in relation to the pandemic. As you know, public agencies and all entities are encouraged not to have in-person meetings of any significant size, so we will be continuing our virtual format until it's safe to do otherwise. All right, so let me go over our format for today's meeting. We've organized it into two parts. So first, you will hear a presentation from our project team who you just met, where you will learn more about the statewide high-speed rail program, the history of the Los Angeles to Anaheim project section, our project schedule, and the very important phase that we are in right now, which is to produce an environmental document for public review. Second, we will move into receiving your formal comments on the scope of this project. Note that the intent of today's meeting is to receive your formal comments and less to answer specific questions about the project, as it's not yet known. The impact analysis and all the associated research and review is in progress, and that is what will be included in the environmental document. So project staff cannot answer, for example, specific questions regarding property impacts, or other issues that are specific to the analysis, as it has not yet been completed and will be documented in the environmental document, again, that will be released next year. So the purpose of our public scoping period is to obtain your input about the scope of work that the project team is conducting and your input about the project. So I really encourage you to provide us your comments today in the form of a comment and less of a question. But however, if you do have any questions about when does the comment period end, or how can I retrieve documents, any informational or clarifying questions, we do encourage that. Our staff is available on the chat function Zoom page in front of you if you are online, and we can absolutely answer those types of questions. But I really want you to make sure that the panel knows what your concerns are, what your issues are in form of a comment, and we'll be sure to record that today. Our meeting is conducted today fully in English. It will continue through 12:30 this afternoon. And we also have a meeting starting at 11:30 this morning and also concluding at 12:30 fully in Spanish. A separate Spanish-speaking team will be conducting that meeting via a separate Zoom link and a phone line, which I'll review in a moment in case anyone here on this English format is interested to move over to the Spanish format, again, beginning at 11:30. Both meetings are identical and contain identical content and information. I'll be making an announcement about the Spanish presentation as we approach 11:30, again, to encourage anyone who might be interested in doing that. And we'll also include this information, including the Zoom link, in the chat box on your screen. So for those of you who might be interested in joining the Spanish presentation at 11:30, you can visit our website to the website that I mentioned earlier, meethsrsocal.org, to click on the Zoom link, and that'll take you straight to the meeting. Or you can also participate by phone only, and I'd like to give you those phone numbers now. If you're interested in participating in the Spanish meeting beginning at 11:30 a.m., the phone number is 669-900-6833. And you also need to enter a meeting ID, and that meeting ID is 912-1014-3683. And then separately, there's a passcode, and that number is 834 922. Again, all those numbers are for those of you who might be interested in joining the Spanish meeting by phone only. Otherwise, please visit our website to obtain the Zoom link, and you're welcome to do so that way. What I'd like to do now is repeat that information in Spanish in case there's anyone here online who is Spanish speaking and would prefer to receive the information that way. En caso que algunos de ustedes prefieren recibir esta presentación en español, vamos a tener una reunión separada empezando a las 11:30 esta mañana. Entonces, para participar en esa reunión, tiene que visitar nuestro website para apuntar el Zoom link para participar por su computadora. O si gustaría, puede participar solamente por teléfono y tengo el número de teléfono para que pueda usar a llamar a las 11:30 cuando empezamos esa reunión. El número de teléfono es 669-900-6833. También tiene que apuntar el meeting ID y ese número es 912-1014-3683. Y también hay un código, tiene que apuntar, es 834922. Gracias. So as you may know, today's public scoping meeting is formally being recorded, and it will be posted to our project website, again, at the meethsrsocal.org website when we are done with our recording here today. Along with the past meetings, all of that information is available on our project website. Also, you should know, to ensure a complete and accurate record of today's meeting, your comments will be formally documented by a court reporter who is transcribing our meeting today as we speak. All right, so I'd like to review with you some instructions for your participation through your Zoom link or through the phone. In the past, our public scoping meetings would be held in multiple physical locations along the project corridor and would be set up to present project information visually and personally one-on-one. So while we are not able to have this in-person touch today, we will still be conducting today's meeting in the same way. So what I mean is, as we would be doing in person, we would receive your comments one by one after a formal presentation. So as I mentioned earlier, we'll be doing our presentation first and then opening up the session to your comments. Note again that the intent of today's meeting is to receive your formal scoping comment about the project, but the project team is happy to answer any questions generally about the project, and we'll see those come through our chat or through your raising your hand to ask the question, or rather the comment orally. Again, I do encourage you to make sure the information is clear to you, so please ask us any clarifying questions, but the project staff cannot answer questions regarding specific property impacts, other impact analysis, or anticipate what is going to be in the environmental document specifically, as the analysis has not yet been completed. The purpose of our meeting today is to obtain your input about areas of interest in relation to the scope of the project being proposed and your input about it. So think through the presentation after you hear it. If there's any areas of concern or points that you want to make sure the project team studies in the environmental document, please put that in the form of a comment, and we'll be happy to have that recorded. And the team definitely reads through all comments and considers that in the development of the environmental document. This almost goes without saying, but I do need to say that we expect all of our participants to be respectful today. Any threatening or profane or other inappropriate language will not be tolerated. Any disruptive participants will be removed from our meeting so that we can move ahead with the productive meeting today, which we fully expect. So you can see us all now on the camera on your Zoom link if that's how you're participating, but we will be turning off the cameras just for you to know during the presentation so that you can focus on the slides. We'll turn the cameras back on during the comment period so that you can see us listening to your question, or your comment, and if there are any questions for the panelists to respond back to you, so you can see us doing that. All right. So for those of you who are online, in order for you to indicate that you have a comment and you're ready to speak it formally, please use the raise your hand feature on your Zoom link. We'll call upon you and we'll unmute you to make sure that we can hear you in order for you to verbally share your comment with the team. If you would like to speak, again, open the attendees tab and click on the raise your hand button. I'll call on you in order, and we'll make sure that your line is unmuted. Please, again, be respectful, and we'll also have a 3-minute limit for the comments. So you'll see that timer on the screen, and I'll make sure that you are able to wrap up your comment within that time. If you're having any technical problem, which does occur sometimes on these virtual meetings, send us a message through the chat on your screen, or you can also email separately if for some reason that isn't working for you. The email address to communicate with staff directly during our meeting today is support@meethsrsocal.org. So it's that same web address, but it's the support email address. So once again, it's support@meethsrsocal.org, and we'll be happy to help you there. So for those of you who are on the telephone only, there's also a way for you to raise your hand. You can raise your hand by pushing *9 on your telephone keypad, and that will show on our screen here that your phone number, as we'll see it on the screen, is raising your hand and have a question and have a comment to make. Again, we'll be taking your comments in order, and we'll call upon you, for those of you who are on the phone, via the last 4 digits of your phone number, since we won't be able to see your name. But the phone numbers work just fine in order for you to present your comment. Again, you can also indicate your comment through our chat box that you can see on your screen. The chat is generally used by our team to communicate with you as you're experiencing our meeting and to address any kind of technical questions or other informational questions that you might have. But you are welcome to indicate your comment on the chat if you so choose to indicate it that way. And I can read it for you. I can read it for you when you are submitting the comments. So we'll make sure to provide that. Speakers will be called again, as I mentioned, in order as we receive it. So please note that it is our normal practice to allow any agency or elected officials to be given an opportunity to speak first. So while it's a Saturday, we do have some of our elected officials working around the clock, so it may be possible that some of you are joining us today. Please indicate that on your screen so we can be sure to identify you first to go forward. We generally have plenty of time to get through our meetings. Sometimes when we are in person, time is constrained and our elected officials have to run off to another meeting, which is why we have them going first. But I anticipate we'll have plenty of time. But again, for you to know, we would like to be accommodating for our elected or any agency representatives to be called upon first. So when your name or your phone number, 4 digits, is called, we request that each of you speak slowly and clearly, stating your first and last name, and if applicable, any organization that you are representing. This is very important for the record. And if we don't hear clearly your name or your organization, we may ask you to repeat that and to spell it to make sure, again, that we have it correctly for the record. As I indicated, today's meeting is formally being transcribed. Oral comments will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. The countdown will begin after you commence speaking. And again, we ask you to include your name and your organization as part of your comment. The time will be monitored and you'll see it on the screen. And we'll make sure not to cut you off, but we do want to make sure that we keep to that time frame. And then you are also welcome to submit any additional comments or documents through the various ways that I will be reviewing with you. So we don't want to limit your comment, but in terms of today's format, that is how we'll be conducting the meeting. When the 3 minutes have been exceeded, I'll let you know just to wrap up your comment, and we'll move on to the next speaker. If it appears we're running out of time, we may have to limit speakers' time to less than 3 minutes. I do not think that will be the case, but I will be sure to make this announcement during the meeting if that's necessary during our meeting today. Okay, so with that, I think you have all your instructions about what to expect for our time today. Again, at 11:30, I'll be making announcements about the jump off for the Spanish meeting for those of you who would like to do that. We also have at least one of our members of the speaking panel who will also be participating in the Spanish session, so we'll make sure to conclude our English before she has to move on. We'll be making additional announcements before 12:30, which is our end time, to encourage you to make your comments in, if not today, in other ways. And I'll be showing that for you on the website. So with that, I would like to go ahead and review with you the agenda for today's meeting. And then we'll have Ophelia start us off. So as we mentioned, the agenda, we're going to commence with Ophelia reviewing the statewide program of the California High-Speed Rail. Next, we'll have Diane talk to you more specifically about the project section, its history, and its map, and all that's in relation to it, some project features. Lena from our BNSF Railway partner will be reviewing specifically the plans for the Colton and the Lenwood project components. Diane then will come back and review the engagement that we've done to date, review for you the environmental process, which is so important and why we're here today. And then at that point, we'll review how for you to stay involved, and then we'll commence our formal comment period, and I'll be facilitating your comments coming through. So with that, Ophelia, over to you.
Hello again. Like what Jana have said, I will be covering like a very high-level overview of our program. And so for some of you that have seen some of our presentation, you probably have seen some of this thing, but for those that have not, this will be very high level. So anyway, our project is the first high-speed rail in the nation, and it is a much-needed project that it will increase mobility across California. It will provide the needed alternative that we needed here. And because of our project, there will be a lot of job creation that will be created. And a good example of that is the project that we have in Central Valley right now under construction. We're averaging about 1,100 workers a day as a creation of that project alone. So to give you a perspective, our project is divided into two phases. The phase one, which we're all working right now, is the one that's depicted in blue. It runs from San Francisco Transbay Terminal all the way to the LA Union Station. And then phase two is going to be going to an extension in Northern California to Sacramento, and then in San Diego in Southern California. And we will be also having a lot of stations along the way. Next slide, please. Phase one is about 520 miles, again, from San Francisco to Los Angeles, Anaheim section. And it's about 119 miles of that is under construction, as I mentioned earlier, in Central Valley. So that section is the only area where we have cleared our environment that we're allowed to do construction. So part of phase one is doing a lot of the environmental clearance that we're doing right now, just like we're doing here in the LA to Anaheim section. So from San Francisco to San Jose to Merced, and then in the Southern California section is the Bakersfield to Palmdale, Palmdale to Burbank, Burbank to LA, and this is the LA to Anaheim section. And so I'm happy to report that there's already, out of the 8 remaining sections that we have to clear, we already have completed the record of decision for clearance for the LGA, which is an extension in Bakersfield, and also the Y, which was announced at our board meeting on Thursday, the final record of decision for that for some of the extensions in our Central Valley project. And we also completed the draft environmental document for 6 of the sections, and we own this section, LA to Anaheim, and the Palmdale to Burbank is the remaining sections that we're working on the draft. Okay, next slide. Phase 2 is an extension of 300 miles, like I said, extension to Sacramento in the north and to San Diego in the south. And we will be building some of the stations noted as the San Francisco Terminal in the north, the LA Union Station that we'll be modifying, and then also the Arctic Station, which will be the end station in the Southern California for the phase 2. So as far as speed, this is a high-speed rail, so I'm sure a lot of you have traveled around the world and rode a high-speed train. And with that experience, you could see how fast it will go. So a good example that I could give you is if you travel from San Francisco to LA Union Station, it will take an hour 40 minutes with a speed of average of about 200 miles an hour. Next slide, please. Okay, next slide. Okay, so in terms of investment, it's always been thought that a lot of the project has been, there's always this thing that they saying all the money is going through Central Valley. Well, that's not really true. We have invested a lot of money in Southern California, and these are the investment that we call our early investment, or in some areas that you read in our document, we call it the bookends. So in Southern California alone, we have $4.4 billion in state funding. As you could see on the screen, there's several sources of money, color of money, but majority of that is coming from our Proposition 1A funding. And I just want to highlight that out of that $4.4 billion, there's about $1.3 billion that coming from our program, High-Speed Rail, and we are instrumental in closing the funding gap with many significant regional projects in Southern California, and some of which are already been completed. Next slide, please. Okay, so just want to highlight there's about $363 million out of that 1.4 that we're investing in the environmental review work, and we are working with our partners Metrolink, Lucent, and others. And this particular funding is dedicated not just for the LA to Anaheim section, but also for the 3 other project sections in Southern California, the Bakersfield to Palmdale, Palmdale to Burbank, and the Burbank to Los Angeles section. And on the map, you could see in colored yellow in there is really what, just to give you a perspective of our plan in extending phase 2 when we go to San Diego. So that's going to be the future plan. And, there's several options that we have in there, just to give you a little bit of perspective on how would that look. Next slide, please. Okay, so like I mentioned, we are heavily working on our environmental process, and we are going to do that for all of our sections. And a good news that happened is last year we were given the delegated authority to be the NEPA lead for the Federal Railroad Administration. So with that delegation, we'll be the lead agency for federal, which is NEPA, and then for California, which is the CEQA. Completing the CEQA and the NEPA processes will allow the authority to invest in new and future federal, state, or private funding that may be available in the completion of our Phase 1 section. With that, I would like to turn over the presentation to Diane, our project manager, to give you a little bit more dive into the project sections. Diane?
Thank you, Ophelia.
You're welcome.
So what you see on this slide is the Los Angeles to Anaheim project section for high-speed rail, and the original scope was 30 miles with 4 stations beginning at Los Angeles Union Station and ending at the Anaheim Regional Transportation Intermodal Center in Anaheim, or Arctic. There will be 2 other stations that are included in the environmental document, one in the Norwalk Santa Fe Springs area and the other one at the Fullerton Transportation Center. And there are 2 alternatives under study, the project alternative, which you see on the map, and the no project alternative. There will be 4 mainline tracks with 2 electrified, so in most sections of the corridor, high-speed rail is adding 1 track to the existing 3 tracks. There will be grade separations that are also environmentally cleared, which I will explain on the next couple of slides. So a grade separation, if you've traveled on a roadway where the gates have gone down, where a train is crossing and you're waiting for the train to cross for the gates to come up, a grade separation separates vehicles and pedestrians and bicyclists from the trains by either elevating the railroad tracks above the roadway or the roadway above the railroad tracks. And the benefits of doing this are improved safety, reduced noise, decreased traffic congestion because traffic is not waiting at the intersection for the train to clear the intersection. And because autos are not queuing up, it reduces greenhouse gas emissions, and it improves trains' operational reliability. Next slide, please. So for the original scope, the Los Angeles to Anaheim, the high-speed rail environment document analyzes the improvements at the crossings throughout the Los Angeles to Anaheim corridor. The grade separations will be advanced in coordination with local jurisdictions and potentially completed on schedules independent from other rail improvements once the environmental clearances are achieved. The document is analyzing 11 proposed new grade separations, 23 modified grade separations, with 2 grade separations remaining at grade, remaining as they are now, and 2 closings of existing crossings. The map you see in front of you helps to explain the new project components that we are, the reason that we are scoping again for this project. So BNSF owns the railroad right-of-way, in other words, the tracks and the land around the tracks between Los Angeles and Fullerton. BNSF has been a supportive partner to passenger rail by allowing passenger rail service to operate on its right-of-way through a shared use agreement. To accommodate the growth in passenger rail service, including high-speed rail in the future, it will be necessary to relocate a portion of the BNSF freight rail service from the Los Angeles to Anaheim corridor east to San Bernardino County. This is so that there will be enough room on the tracks for passenger rail service in the future while still accommodating BNSF elsewhere. The BNSF Colton Intermodal facility will accommodate freight trains that cannot be handled in the corridor due to increased passenger rail service. And Henno, do you want to put the pointer on the Colton area? Thank you. So you can see it's out in San Bernardino County. And then the BNSF Lenwood staging tracks will be used for staging freight trains during and after construction. And Henno Veva is pointing that out right now. And with that, Lena Kent is going, I think I have one more slide before Lena comes on. Thank you, Henno. So the High Speed Rail Authority and BNSF is working together to environmentally clear the Los Angeles to Anaheim main corridor plus the Colton and Lenwood components that are necessary for high-speed rail to use that main corridor. The high-speed rail, there was a memorandum of understanding that was entered between High-Speed Rail Authority and BNSF last year in March that outlined the roles and responsibilities in this environmental clearance. So the High-Speed Rail Authority will serve as the CEQA and NEPA lead agency to environmentally clear the BNSF Colton Intermodal facility in the Lenwood staging tracks, which we refer to as the Colton and Lenwood components, and the high-speed rail Los Angeles to Anaheim section draft EIS as an essential part of the project. For purposes of CEQA and NEPA clearance process, the Los Angeles to Anaheim high-speed rail passenger corridor and the Colton and Lenwood components are collectively referred to as the project. BNSF responsibilities in this are that they are providing the information and the analysis and the studies to support the environmental clearance process, and they are participating in meetings and coordinations to support high-speed rail in this process. And with that, I've got one more, I'm sorry. So scoping, for those of you that aren't familiar with it, what we're doing right now, this period from August 25th to September 24th, we are gathering comments from the public and agencies and elected officials. Scoping is the term used in both the California environmental process and the federal environmental process, CEQA and NEPA, to define the actions for determining the scope of issues to address during the environmental analysis of the proposed project. We are re-engaging and engaging the surrounding communities to identify potentially significant issues and concerns of public importance related to additional project components. We are informing the public of the Colton and Lenwood project components, and comments received during this period will be considered in the development of the draft EIR and EIS for the Los Angeles to Anaheim high-speed rail project section. And with that, Lena Kent is going to describe more about the Colton and Lenwood components.
Great, thank you, Diane. And as mentioned in the previous slides, BNSF has worked hard to be a good partner with state and local officials in California, as well as multiple locations across the country as they have worked to establish commuter rail or passenger service. We do really require, though, that any commuter operation cannot degrade BNSF's freight service. So what does that mean? It means it negatively can affect our ability to handle our freight customers or provide them with the service that they've come accustomed to expect from us as a world-class transportation leader. So, when you look at Colton, you say, why is it needed? It's farther away from the main corridor there. So the Los Angeles to Anaheim corridor would add high-speed rail service to BNSF's right-of-way between Los Angeles and Fullerton, as Diane had indicated. And at BNSF, we've agreed to partner with high-speed rail and allow them to use our right-of-way. However, additional passenger service beyond what is currently allowed to BNSF's right-of-way would cause congestion that would stop BNSF from achieving acceptable on-time service standards. So to avoid unacceptable degradation to its on-time service standards, BNSF would need to remove an average of 10 freight trains a day from the Los Angeles to Fullerton corridor and to accommodate high-speed rail. So in order to be made whole, we'll need to relocate those trains and process them at a new rail yard outside the Los Angeles to Fullerton corridor in Colton. So for those of you who are from the Inland Empire, familiar with the area, the proposed site is at the former Cal Portland cement plant. And as many of you know, that cement plant is situated on an industrial site. It was first established in 1890 before it closed its doors about a decade ago. And obviously when it closed its doors, it took a number of jobs with it. So this new facility would obviously provide some much needed jobs to that region. And also some economic benefits to the local and regional economy. So what would the new facility feature in terms of technology? What's really great about this site is because it's a vacant piece of land, we're able to build the facility from the ground up. And so it's being proposed that we operate with electric-powered yard equipment. And so that electric-powered yard equipment would include all-electric cranes, such as rail-mounted gantry cranes, or electric-powered leather-rubber tire gantry cranes, or equivalent technology. All-electric automatic straddle carriers, or electric-powered yard hostlers. And some of you may know that we have been testing out the electric yard hostlers in our Los Angeles and our San Bernardino facility currently. It could also include some all-electric forklift, chassis stackers, top picks, and side loaders. Any additional mitigation to reduce yard emissions would then be assessed under CEQA's standards of feasibility. Next slide, please. The grade separations, I think, are really important. And again, we have an opportunity to design this in a way that we eliminate the need for at-grade crossings, which takes out, it engineers out the risk of vehicles and trains having to come in contact. So you'll be able to move through that area more seamlessly. The proposed grade separations, the new ones would include Rancho Avenue, Lacadena Drive South, Fog Street, and Lacadena Drive South, Agua Monza Road, and then we would be modifying some existing crossings. Some of you are familiar with the Fog Street crossing that is currently there, and that one would be modified. That one, I know there's been a number of times when it's been hit by vehicles and so forth, so this would be, obviously one that would be considered for modification. In Street, Lacadena Drive North, and Vivienda Avenue, and then a proposed bridge crossing over the Santa Ana River. Next slide, please. So the Lenwood staging tracks, there again, these are needed in order so that it doesn't degrade the freight service that we currently have on our LA to Anaheim corridor. And so the Lenwood staging tracks would be built to stage trains as they're waiting to come into the corridor during construction of the high-speed rail, passenger rail corridor, as well as when they're doing, as well as when maintenance work is being done on that corridor. And again, this is another area that could provide some benefits in terms of employment for construction and operation, and economic benefits to that local and regional economy through increased tax revenue. Now, this particular location is just west of our Barstow facility, adjacent to our main line there. Next slide, please. And again, with this particular proposed staging tracks, it would include a new grade separation at Hinckley Road, and allowing vehicle traffic and train traffic to move through that area seamlessly. There'd also be a proposed bridge crossing at Lenwood Creek. I think that's the end of my slides. I'll pass it back over to Diane.
Thank you, Lena. So this is just a slide that shows you that we're, in doing this work, we are considering community concerns, project objectives, and environmental resources. Next slide, please. For the Los Angeles to Anaheim corridor, which has been, the study has been going on for numerous years. There has been a lot of outreach. We are just starting with Colton and Lenwood because as we've incorporated these recently, we have been out to talk to city officials and county supervisors and elected officials, and this is our first touch point with the public on this, but not our last. So we've done legislative briefings, what we call stakeholder working group meetings, stakeholders like church groups and environmental groups and community groups and so forth. In the Inland Empire, this has started with telephone calls to let people know about the projects, the project components. We will be holding, this is an open house meeting by Zoom, but we will be holding additional open house meetings on the main corridor and in Colton and the Barstow area in the future. And we conducted a telephone town hall last week to provide some information on the project and have people ask questions. Upcoming outreach includes some office hours if you need some clarity on how to provide comments or you have some questions. This is the second and final of the public scoping meetings. And as I mentioned, we will be having open houses prior to the release of the draft EIR EIS. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So I mentioned that we have been working on the Los Angeles to Anaheim passenger rail segment of the environmental analysis for a few years. The original scope and the summary of the environmental process efforts for that. Scoping like this was actually initiated in March 2007, which identified a range of alternatives being considered for environmental evaluation and environmental effects. We developed additional route concepts and completed a preliminary alternatives analysis report in 2009 and supplemental analyses in 2010 and 2016, which resulted in 2 build alternatives or project alternatives. After identifying the greater negative impacts to sensitive environmental resources and higher capital costs, one alternative was advanced for the draft EIR EIS. That is the staff recommended project alternative that you saw on the screen earlier, which was selected by the High Speed Rail Authority's board in November of 2018. This is a slide that shows you essentially what I just spoke about. All the dots on the top I covered in the previous slide. You can see we're here right now. We're in the scoping primarily because of the Colton and Lenwood components being added. Once we receive your comments, we will continue with our analysis. We will consider your comments as we are developing the draft EIR EIS document and analysis. Once we release the draft EIR, EIS, prior to releasing the draft EIR, EIS, we will hold a round of open houses, and hopefully we will be in a better public health situation and we'll be able to hold them in person. But if we still have the concerns that we do right now with the pandemic, they will be open houses by Zoom. So let's be optimistic and hope that we're out of the woods on that. We will release the draft EIR, EIS, which will put us in a public comment period where you will be able to review the documents and review the reports associated with the documents, provide your comments, and we will hold open houses first during that period, and then we will hold public hearings. We will take all of your comments. We will respond to all of them. There will be a section of the final document that will include all of your comments and responses to them. And ultimately, the goal is for the board, the High Speed Rail Board, to approve the final EIR, EIS, and for us to receive the record of decision and notice of determination. Throughout this process, as a team, we work to avoid adverse impacts during our analysis and considerations, minimize impacts when they cannot be avoided, and mitigate impacts when they cannot be avoided or minimized. So the environmental document will include mitigations for impacts that cannot be avoided or minimized. I'm not going to read every topic on this screen, but this is meant to show you how many resource areas are analyzed during this process. And as Henno mentioned at the beginning, the EIR and EIS draft and final will be voluminous documents. They will be very large. And that's because we are looking at all these different resource areas. I will name a few that I know many of you are interested in: environmental justice, air quality and global climate change, hazardous materials and waste, noise and vibration, impact on parks, recreation and open space, and transportation. So all of these will be analyzed thoroughly. Next slide, please. The scoping period that we are in right now, this is a little bit about the scoping comment process. You have 30 days ending on September 24th to review the draft, the notice of intent and notice of project, which are posted on our website, and provide comments on what you would like us to consider when we are continuing with our analysis. Comments submitted during the scoping period will be considered in the development of the draft EIR EIS. You see the California High Speed Rail website address right there. There are numerous ways to submit your scoping comments. One way is today during the public comment period. We have a court reporter that will record everything that you say, and it will be considered as a comment. So online via the authority's website is another way. There is a comment form that you can access on the website. You can send it via email to the email address that you see on the screen. By the way, this presentation will be posted on our website via U.S. mail at the address that you see on the screen. And we also have a toll-free number where you can leave a voicemail message, which we will record as a scoping comment. Scoping comments must be received electronically or postmarked or by voicemail on or before September 24th, 2020. So you're in a virtual public scoping meeting right now. There is a Spanish presentation that will happen at 11:30. We had another one this past Thursday night. I see some people participated in the one on Thursday night as well as today, so thank you for joining us again. We also have a Los Angeles to Anaheim website, which has a little more information, has some videos of us. meethsrsocal.org, so you'll see videos of several of us explaining some of the things that were explained on the slideshow today, and how to how to submit a comment. So I encourage you to take a look at that website. It's www.meethsrsocal.org. Next slide, please. This is the schedule, a high-level look at the schedule. Right now we are in scoping and public meetings like today. In the spring of 2021, prior to releasing the draft environmental impact report and environmental impact statement, we anticipate holding open house meetings. If they are in person, there will be open house meetings both on the main Los Angeles to Anaheim corridor and in the Colton area and in the Barstow area. That is if we are able to hold them in person rather than via Zoom. The draft EIR-EIS will be released in the spring of 2021, which will trigger the public comment period. We will hold open houses again at that time to provide information to the public. Then we will hold public hearings, which are one of the ways that you can submit your comments to the draft EIR-EIS, with the goal of achieving the record of decision and notice of determination in the summer of 2022. And this might be the last slide. We encourage you to stay involved. Your input is very important. The process is made better because the public is involved commenting. So thank you for your participation today.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Diane, and to all of our panelists for walking us through the project information in relation to the LA to Anaheim project section, including the new 2 project components. I'm pleased to see that we have a few of you with your hands raised and some comments coming on already. So as I mentioned earlier, we'll be taking the information in turn and acknowledging our agency and elected representatives first. So with that, I want to acknowledge Lin Jin Sun from the South Coast Air Quality Management District. I see that you have your hand raised. I'll also announce the additional folks with your hands raised so that you know that I can see you and I'll be asking you to speak coming next. So after Lin Jin Sun from the South Coast Air Quality Management District, I'll be reading a comment received from one of our local council members in the city of Colton, Ernest Cisneros, and then coming to Yasmin Angelides with Earth Justice, and then Christopher Chavez from the Coalition for Clean Air. So again, thank you to you all for your hands going up. Now I would like to give the floor to Lin Jin Sun from the Air Quality Management District.
Good morning. My name is Li Jin Sun from the South Coast Air Quality Management District. I'm a program supervisor overseeing our CEQA Intergovernmental Review Program. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. South Coast AQMD is a regulatory agency responsible for air quality generally within the 4 counties of Los Angeles, Orange, Riverside, and San Bernardino. Our agency has a responsibility to ensure general conformity and has a unique role and expertise in air quality and air quality related health impacts. South Coast AQMD staff is concerned about the project for the following reasons. Proposed BNS Colton Rail Yard is nearly double the acreage of the BNS San Bernardino Rail Yard, which has and continues to be a significant source of diesel particulate matter and a concern for the residents in the surrounding AB 617 community. Proposed BNS Colton Rail Yard is located in the environmental justice area with the surrounding land uses in the worst 95th percentile in the state. Being in the top 95th percentile, this community has already experienced the greatest pollution burden compared to other areas in the state. BNS Colton Rail Yard is further exacerbating this burden. The California Air Resources Board's land use guidance recommends siting limitations of sensitive receptors within 1 mile of the rail yard. It is imperative that the project be designed at a minimum to protect the 17,500 residents, 6 schools, and 5 healthcare facilities that are within 1 mile of the Colton Rail Yard. The proposed Colton Rail Yard would add an average 10 trains per day, which can represent nearly 4,000 truck trips per day. South Coast AQMD is pleased that Ms. Kent and the BNSF has committed to all electric cargo handling equipment. However, this still leaves a significant portion of sources that will be using diesel fuels. Diesel particulate is a carcinogen and is linked to other respiratory health effects such as asthma. Based on health risk assessments prepared by the California Air Resource Board's rail yards in the state, locomotives and on-road trucks are responsible for nearly 70% cancer risk for intermodal rail yard. This community will face an even greater exposure to air pollution and bear an even greater disproportionate burden of increasing health risks and respiratory ailments. Therefore, High-Speed Rail Authority and the BNS must do more in reducing air quality impacts and health risks on the surrounding communities from all construction and operation aspects of the freight rail yard components, including the main line where locomotives will be traveling to the BNSF Colton and the Hobart rail yards. BNSF Colton rail yard and Lenwood portions are obtaining environmental clearance under the guise of the high-speed rail project. The draft GIR and EIS must analyze all the short and long-term environmental impacts associated with construction and the operation of the BNSF Colton rail yard independently of the project portion of the high-speed rail system. In the possible event the high-speed rail is delayed or never materializes due to lack of funding. High-speed rail system uses all electric trains. High-Speed Rail Authority and the BNSF must be proactive when siting a new rail yard within an existing community. BNSF must use the lowest emitting locomotives, zero emission or near zero emission on-road trucks, and electric yard equipment in addition to the zero emission cargo handling equipment. This must be the starting point for the environmental analysis, and any significant air quality and health impact must be mitigated. South Coast AKMD will be submitting formal written comments. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Lee Jun, for your comment. So noted. Next, as I mentioned, I would like to read a comment from local council member Ernest Cisneros from the city of Colton. His comment is, with regard to the 10 freight trains a day coming into the city, please take into consideration the noise involved, and hopefully there will be specific daytime hours that the trains can arrive and leave the city. Thank you very much for your comment. We appreciate that. It is so noted and appreciated. Next, I will be going to a few of you who have your hands raised. Next up, I have Yasmin Angelides, and following Yasmin, Christopher Chavez, and then Yasi. So if we can take those in order. Yasmin, you are on.
Great, thank you. Good morning. My name is Yasmin Angelides. I'm a lawyer for Earth Justice. And today I'm commenting on behalf of the Impact Project, which is a coalition that centers the health of frontline communities in Southern California in the fight to reduce dirty diesel pollution from freight transportation. We are strongly opposed to this expansion of BNSF's operations. This project would allow BNSF to build a new rail yard and expand its dirty diesel operations under the guise of the all-electric high-speed rail. Study after study confirms that the rail industry continues to seriously harm the health of community members living near rail yards and rail paths, and it is unacceptable that neighboring communities will be the ones that need to pay for this project with their health, particularly at a time when air pollution and smoke from wildfires are ravaging communities across Southern California. In addition, the public process that discussed this freight rail expansion has been paltry at best. It is critical that the environmental analysis for this project address the following concerns. First, the environmental analysis for the high-speed rail project needs to look at alternatives that do not include this new BNSF rail yard. Second, the High-Speed Rail Authority should prepare a health risk assessment because this project will have negative impacts on the community's health. Third, the environmental analysis needs to look at the correct baseline for the Colton rail yard, which is an empty lot with zero truck traffic. Fourth, the environmental analysis should disclose what happens if the high-speed rail is not built. Would BNSF still get to build the Colton rail yard and Lenwood staging tracks, even though there is no need? And finally, why does BNSF need a new facility in 2026 when the high-speed rail link will not be in operation until 2040 or possibly ever? This backdoor use of a public project for private industry gain is deeply concerning. So in sum, we urge the authority not to move forward with the BNSF parts of this project and to incorporate responses to these questions in the environmental analysis. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you, Yasmin. Thank you for your comment. So noted. Next, with your hand raised, I see Christopher Chavez from the Coalition for Clean Air. Christopher, you're next. Please state your name, yourself, and your full affiliation and proceed, please.
Thank you, and thank you for providing this forum today. My name is Christopher Chavez, and I am the Deputy Policy Director for the Coalition for Clean Air. Coalition for Clean Air is an air quality advocacy nonprofit, and our mission is to protect public health, improve air quality, and prevent climate change. As with others today, I want to express concerns about this project. Air pollution within the South Coast Air Basin, and particularly the Inland Empire, is severe. Sadly, this burden falls disproportionately on low-income communities and communities of color. The new Colton rail yard could and would likely worsen matters. As it is, diesel particulate matter is the primary air toxic contaminant in the South Coast Air Basin in general, and in urban San Bernardino County specifically. DPM is a known carcinogen and is comprised of over 40 different carcinogenic compounds. The primary source of DPM is from the goods movement industry, and nearly 40% of the United States imports come through the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles, attracting hundreds of thousands of diesel-powered ships, trucks, trains, pieces of cargo handling equipment, and other emission sources. According to the South Coast Air Quality Management District's Multiple Air Toxic Exposure Study, or MATES-4, cancer risk is highest near the goods movement corridors, and there is an elevated cancer risk in Colton and San Bernardino. It is not unfair to say that the residents who live near goods movement corridors are subsidizing the global economy with their health and with their lives. I also want to elevate one of the comments made from South Coast AQMD, AB 617. AB 617 is a 2017 law which, among other things, requires the California Air Resources Board and the local air districts to identify polluted communities, highly polluted communities, and develop localized emissions monitoring and reduction plans. One of the very first communities in the South Coast Basin to be identified as a 617 community was San Bernardino-Muscoy. The proposed Colton rail yard is in very close proximity to the San Bernardino-Muscoy AB 617 community. I would also like to note during that process, BNSF took a very adversarial role to the community proceedings and oftentimes pushed back on community requests. This raises doubts as far as how willing they will be in accepting community concerns and requests. The questions I'd like to see in the study are, how will the California High-Speed Rail Authority and BNSF reduce emissions, especially diesel particulate matter, both during the construction and operational phase of the Colton rail yard? For the emissions that can't be eliminated, what mitigation efforts will be made? And how will this project work with other plans within the South Coast Air Quality Management District, such as the AQMP, the AB 617 Community Emissions Reduction Plan, and other relevant air quality and sustainability plans? Thank you for your time.
Excellent, Christopher. Thank you for your comment. Very well stated and received for the record. Next, we have Yasi, and then following Yasi, I am going to acknowledge Heather Kreiska and Angelo Logan in that order. And we have I do see a few additional folks with your hands raised, so we'll go through that in order. So now Yasi, oops, let me reset that timer. You have the floor. Please restate your full name and any affiliation. Go right ahead.
Hi, my name is Yasi Kawazade, and I'm an organizing representative with the Sierra Club.
Yasi, excuse me, can you spell your last name just for the record to make sure we got it right?
Okay. It's Kavezade. And I live in the Inland Empire in a city called Riverside, pretty close to Colton, California, and I'm here as an organizing representative with the Sierra Club national campaign called My Generation. Firstly, this project is massive and requires massive outreach. Mailers, working groups, working with schools, universities, and other public entities should be at the table, especially because there's already been an MOU with BNSF from the High-Speed Rail Authority without any public input. I don't know how many of you on the panel live, go to work, or attend school near a freeway, warehouse, or rail yard. Let me say it's not a healthy environment. The Colton rail yard expansion is an injustice that our community will suffocate on. Children who live and attend near schools in the current BNSF railway cargo distribution in the west side of San Bernardino are twice as likely to develop asthma as children who live 5 miles away in Fontana, according to the Loma Linda Health Study. Job creation from this rail yard has no guarantee that they'll be sustainable, good-paying jobs. BNSF does not provide sustainable job schedules, get cut, furloughs are prevalent, and automation gates are being the new normal. If jobs are so great at BNSF, why is the community near the rail yard live below the poverty line, see some of the most violent crimes, and experience grave health impacts? Can BNSF create new train technologies to haul more freight, or do they keep wanting to expand more and more in our communities? Why destroy land and the health of communities for this expansion? This is part of the goods movement expansion business model that does not benefit the public and continues to benefit profits. The amount of jobs from this expansion does not outweigh the toxic emissions from cargo equipment and the rail, with massive amount of truck traffic flooding our roads and freeways. The rail industry continues to exact harm and resist cleaning up its dirty diesel operations. There's no commitment that BNSF and the High Speed Rail Authority will consider health policy for all. Is this the future we would like to propose for the expansion in Colton, right across the street from Colton High School? The governor and the attorney general will be hearing from our members, and the movement to hold corporations accountable like BNSF, who have not been responsible moving goods, who've not been a good actor and a good responsible actor moving goods in San Bernardino and beyond in our inland communities. We cannot continue to let BNSF wreak havoc on our lungs. And the air quotes, I'm doing air quotes, the revenue that BNSF has offered has not benefited our community to this day. This project will just allow for more freedom for this company to do what it pleases in our backyards. The environmental analysis needs to look at alternatives that don't include this new rail yard in Colton. We strongly oppose this project, and we're not confident that the High Speed Rail Authority will protect the public as it pursues to the wrong-headed freight expansion. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you as well, Yasi, for your comment. Next, the following set of speakers, I'll be acknowledging Heather Kreiska next, followed by Angelo Logan, and then Justice Sandoval. Heather, please go right ahead, state your full name and spell your last name properly, if you would, for the record, and any affiliation. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Heather Kreiska. Last name is Krycka, and I'm an attorney with the Natural Resources Defense Council. We will be submitting more extensive written comments, but today I'd like to focus my comments on a few main issues. We are very concerned about the proposal to expand BNSF's freight capacity under the guise of this high-speed rail project. The need for the massive freight expansion and its connection to high-speed rail has not been justified. It appears that the proposals have been negotiated in secret and for the benefit of private industry. The process has lacked community input, and yet these projects threaten to severely harm residents' health and quality of life. First, the authority should drop the freight expansion from the high-speed rail project. The EIR-EIS should analyze alternatives that do not include the Colton rail yard. Second, the EIR-EIS should analyze the BNSF portions of the project independently from high-speed rail. For example, all pollution from the Colton rail yard should be disclosed in a separate analysis so that the public can easily understand how the massive freight project, located many miles away from the high-speed rail corridor, will impact communities. Third, the EIR-EIS should disclose the true increase in freight capacity that the new rail yard will have on the region compared to the existing present baseline. This includes all rail and truck trips that will be generated by the new rail yard and all diesel emissions associated with those trips. The EIR-EIS must disclose which freight corridors will be used and the connection to cargo throughput at the ports of LA and Long Beach. Finally, the EIR-EIS must provide an honest assessment of how the massive freight projects will affect Southern Californians' quality of life. It must analyze quality of life impacts both for residents living near the freight project sites and for residents who live along the rail and highway corridors that will be used. This analysis should include a health risk assessment. We are opposed to the proposed freight expansion projects and to any public dollars being used to build these projects for BNSF. We urge the authority to remove these freight projects from consideration in its high-speed rail project. Thank you.
Excellent. Excuse me, Heather. Excellent. Thank you very much for your comment. It is so noted. Next, I'm going to be calling on Angelo Logan, followed by Justice Sandoval. Then we have a couple of comments that have come through our chat that I'll be reading out for those individuals, and then proceeding with the rest of you with your hands raised. Angelo, please, let me reset that clock. And please go right ahead. State your name, any affiliation, and provide us your comment. Thank you.
Hi there. My name is Angelo Logan. I first wanted to say that like many of the other commenters, I'm very concerned with the environmental justice impacts from this particular project as it relates to BNSF's portion of the high-speed rail project. I also want to echo Yasmin, Yazi, and Heather's comments, and also agree with their suggestions as well. Similar to their comments, I would like to propose and suggest that a health risk assessment is conducted in the analysis of this project as it relates to BNSF, including the health impacts beyond cancer risk. Also included in that should be quality of life impacts as well. So a health risk assessment, a health impact assessment that also includes quality of life impacts. Also believe that having BNSF conduct the study that would be included in the environmental impact poses conflicts on this project as their beneficiary of the building of the Colton project. And so looking at alternatives of individuals and entities that would be responsible for putting together those studies. Also, alternative to the projects or to the BNSF portions of the projects should be analyzed, including new rail lines owned and operated by high-speed rail rather than BNSF. Also, the trucks in totality, visiting the BNSF yard, Colton yard, and Vernon yards should be analyzed as part of the health risk assessment and other environmental impacts. Also, would like to suggest to recommend that a study of BNSF's total rail operation in Southern California should be studied in totality in Southern California to better understand the need of the new proposed Colton rail yard as it relates to the high-speed rail. And that is all. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Angelo. Let me reset our clock here. Next, I'm calling upon Justice Sandoval. And then, as I mentioned, I'll be reading a couple of comments that we received through our chat, and then proceeding with a few more of you who I see have your hands raised. Justice, if you can go right ahead, please restate your name, any affiliation, and provide us your comment.
Hi, my name is Justice Sandoval, and I'm a community member of Colton and also a volunteer with the Sierra Club. And yeah, so I've been living in Colton for like my whole life, and it's no secret that the rail yard is a huge part of our daily experience. And, you know, it's not only the sound and the inconvenience, but it's really affecting our health. I'm not sure if you've been to Colton, but our air is disgusting. So, you know, if you can take a trip down here and see what we live daily before you take further steps. And, you know, our air is disgusting because of the cumulative impacts that we see. And, you know, there's no surprise or coincidence that we are predominantly Black and brown. Just this past year, we lost 2 kids in our community to cancer. So like really let that sit with you. And, you know, we're losing kids to profits and to this dirty air. We suffer allergies and asthma daily. And it not only affects our daily lives, but it affects our physical and mental health. Our bodies and lives cannot endure this project, and we shouldn't have to suffer for profit or convenience. I'm tired of being looked over and sacrificed because of all of these cumulative impacts. And these cumulative impacts are a product of environmental racism. And as someone who loves my city, I love the people in my city, and I'm concerned for our health, I'm please asking you to put people and their health over profits and reconsider this project. Thank you.
Justice, thank you very much for your comment. We appreciate that very much. What I'd like to do is, prior to reading the comments that we received through our chat function, I do see Dr. G. Gonzalez from the City of Colton Council with your hand raised. So as we mentioned before, we want to acknowledge our elected representatives who are so important in the process that we are conducting in relation to this project. So Dr. G, if you can hear me, I'd like to acknowledge you now. Please restate your name fully for the record and your affiliation.
I'm Dr. G, City Councilman in the City of Colton, and good morning, everybody, and thank you for putting this scoping meeting together. Much appreciated. I'm back, and I wrote down notes from the meeting on Thursday night. So anyway, I had a couple questions for, I guess, Lena, and then one general question for Genoveva. Lena, the first question is with regard to the 10 freight train trips that are proposed to be moved here to Colton, do you see some sort of anticipation of growth to that number of trips looking forward?
The project is analyzing the 10 trains that need to be on average 10 trains coming out of the corridor. And that's what the scope of this project is analyzing.
But I mean, looking forward, once that gets established, I mean, is that going to be pretty consistent, or do you see that whole freight train trip thing growing over the years in the future?
I mean, the facility can only accommodate the freight that's been, that we're currently projecting to go there, to take out of that corridor so that we can accommodate freight service. This isn't a capacity enhancing project. This is a project to accommodate passenger service in the corridor.
Thank you for clarifying that. That's a good way to explain it. Thank you. Okay, question number 2 has to do with the property itself. Is this too premature, or has any discussion happened on whether or not the property is going to remain in the county or be annexed by Colton? I don't know if this is premature or not, but has there been any discussion on any level around you guys by any chance?
No, and I understand that's a question that the City of Colton has looked at, but right now we're really in the infancy stage of this project. We're in scoping. It's still yet to be determined if the project moves forward. So that it would be premature, really, Dr. G, to say whether or not that that would happen or not.
Okay, I appreciate that. I know we're waiting for other impacts later on when the draft comes out. So I'll just add that to that wait list there. And then finally, I left a message with Lena Kent and Genoveva. I was requesting some flyers and some sort of poster or board so I can do an outreach table in South Colton. So hopefully that message got out. I'd like to pick those up if possible, someplace, somewhere. So if somebody can help me with that, my time schedule goes until September 24th. So the clock is ticking here. So thank you.
Absolutely, Dr. G. Thank you very much for your comments today and clarifying some of those points of information. And please know that your request for materials has been received, and that will be coordinated with you directly. Okay, so next I would like to read for the record a couple of comments that have come through. First from Brian Yanity, a representative of the Fullerton Observer. The request is for an accounting of the overall emissions impact of the project. The High-Speed Rail Authority should take into account all the diesel truck traffic and diesel locomotive emissions generated by this proposed Colton Intermodal Yard for the coming decades and in perpetuity is the request. In addition, a second comment is for a detailed origin and destination study of all the trucks going to and from the Colton Intermodal Yard for that to be included in the environmental analysis. Thank you very much to Mr. Yanity for that comment. It has been received. In addition, I have one more comment to state for the record from a Mr. Robert Frampton. The request is for the authority to please state the rationale for the expansion of the Colton Yard and its relationship to the volume of rail traffic through Fullerton. The request is to indicate how activity at the Colton Yard will reduce the number of freight trains through Fullerton. Secondly, the request is to indicate where the freight will come from that will go into the makeup of the trains in Colton. So again, centered around the volume and the origin of the freight trains to Colton. Finally, an additional comment from Mr. Frampton is the fact that freight trains would be located or would be loaded at Colton and are being displaced from the LA to Fullerton segment implies that the containers would have been loaded on or off the train at BNSF's Hobart yard. We need to understand the origin of these containers, which get on the train via Hobart, but would be displaced instead or loaded on and off at Colton. Unless they are being transloaded from another BNSF train, which is unlikely, the individual states, virtually all of the containers coming into Hobart Yard to be put on trains arrive by truck. So that has been entered for the record, and thank you again, Mr. Frampton, for submitting us your comments. I would like to state now as well, before proceeding to a few more of you who have your hands raised, thank you so much for doing that and your patience. We are now at 11:28, which is 2 minutes away from 11:30 when we will be beginning our Spanish presentation. So again, if anyone is interested in hearing the same presentation in Spanish and providing any formal comments to us, to our Spanish-speaking team in Spanish, please participate in our Spanish meeting. You can obtain the Zoom link directly from our website, meethsrsocal.org, or by calling. Let me announce that number again, 669-900-6833. The meeting ID is 912-1014-3683. And the passcode is 834922. I'll be repeating this in Spanish. Si alguien gustaría participar en nuestra presentación en español, va a empezar en 1 minuto a las 11:30. Por favor, llame al número 669-900-6833. Tiene que entrar el meeting ID. Esos números son 912-1014-3683. Y también el código de la reunión es 834922. Gracias. All right, so good luck to our Spanish-speaking team. Thank you for handling that separate presentation. We are grateful for being able to handle that for our Spanish-speaking audience. What I'd like to do now is to go back to those of you who have your hands raised. I will call you out in order. And so again, please state your full name, any affiliation for the record, and state your comment. So I'm going to call on my screen. It says Chica Core Team. I think Chica is an acronym for something. So if you can please introduce yourself, your affiliation, you now have 3 minutes.
Hello, hi everybody. My name is Darby Osnaya, O-S-N as in Nancy, A-Y-A. I'm here representing CHICA, which stands for Chicano Indigenous Community for Culturally Conscious Advocacy and Action. We're located in San Bernardino and Colton, and I'm also in partnership myself with Sierra Club, along with Yasi. So I do have some major concerns, and I'm very happy to have heard Dr. G, who's one of my council members, on the call as well. But yes, so moving forward with some of my concerns. First thing is that we're just finding out about this proposed expansion very last minute. And as it relates to the high-speed rail project, including the construction of a whole new rail yard in Colton, the industry has continuously wreaked havoc in our community, especially our health, and this has been confirmed by multiple studies. The rail industry continues to exact its harm and resist cleaning up its dirty diesel operations. This massive expansion of freight rail operations is ill-conceived, and we feel the public is being duped into supporting this expansion by a for-profit company on the public's dime. We cannot continue to let BNSF wreak havoc on our lungs. This project will just allow for more truancy by this company. The environmental analysis needs to look at alternatives that don't include this new rail yard. We are strongly opposed to this project, and we're not confident that HSRA will protect the public as it pursues the wrong-headed freight expansion. I am a long time, for almost 30 years, living in Colton, so my entire life, because I'm 31. And I graduated from Colton High School, and yes, I'm very, very much concerned about this and our health. I live right next to the train tracks. The tracks are constantly filled with trains 24/7. It's just about every 15 minutes or so there is trains passing by, and it's right in my backyard, and it's everybody's backyard here in Colton. So this is just going to make what's already bad in Colton even worse. Thank you for your time, everybody. And this is what I had to say.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Darby, for those comments. So received. Thank you. Next, I wanted to announce three more individuals with their hands raised. I'm going to be calling next on Cesar Naije, followed by Marvin Norman, and then Audrey Ibarra. So Cesar, I'm calling on you now. Please restate your name and spell that last name for the record, please, your last name for the record, and any affiliation. Please go right ahead.
Thank you. This is Cesar Nije with Earth Justice calling against this project. My full name is Cesar, C-E-S-A-R. Last name is N-I-J-E. Thank you. I'm calling you from my home in South Central Los Angeles, California, because I live right next to rail lines, some fully operating and some completely abandoned. And I see the people in my community. It can easily see how many communities like those in Colton are hurting because of the remnants and long-term effects of uncontrolled rail projects. These rail projects operate on dirty diesel and contribute to the anthropogenic greenhouse gases causing our climate crisis. Our lungs are hurting, and they have been hurting for a long time now. The rail industry needs to clean up its dirty diesel operations, but has refused to do so. And the environmental analysis needs to look at alternatives that don't include this new rail yard. We come from diverse communities in California, and I'm sure that each one of you are aware of the fires blazing throughout the state. And this project will just allow for this company to add fuel to the fires and wreak havoc on our lungs through its air pollution. The climate crisis is unfolding as we speak, and will only get worse if we don't stop polluters like BNSF burning the fossil fuels causing global warming. Thank you for providing this forum. That is all. I reserve my time. Thank you.
Cesar, thank you very much for your comment. And I'll reset that clock. And I apologize for not properly pronouncing your beautiful last name. I should know that. Cesar Nije, thank you very much for your comment. I will go next to Audrey Ibarra, who I see with your hand raised. Audrey, you have the floor. Please restate your name, any affiliation, and welcome.
Hi, my name is Audrey Ibarra. I'm not affiliated with any groups. I'm just a very concerned community member. I live directly next to a really large railway in Colton, California. Colton, California is home to 2 main railways already. We are heavily impacted. There's a huge amount of traffic out here. I'm really disappointed in the level of community outreach by BNSF, and I'm calling for greater transparency. And just for BNSF to be going above and beyond what they are already doing, which isn't honestly very much. So yeah, very opposed to this project. Thank you so very much for your time.
Excellent. Audrey, thank you very much for your comments and for participating. Next, I see we have Marvin Norman with your hand raised. Marvin, please restate your name, any affiliation, and you have 3 minutes. Do we have Marvin online?
There we go. Hey, you guys hear me now?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Please go right ahead.
Yeah, my name is Marvin Norman, M-A-R-V-E-N, Norman, N-O-R-M-A-N. I'm the executive director of the Inland Empire Biking Alliance and also a Colton resident until very recently for almost 20 years. So I'm rather familiar with the area and with also a high-speed rail fan. So I'm familiar with trains and stuff. So I've been following the project for a while, and this is the first I've heard about these additions.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as others have stated, the outreach surrounding how these have been added is kind of murky. And so we definitely want to make sure there's a robust study of the impacts of this component of the project to the community. As I said, I used to live in Colton, and as the biking, from a biking standpoint, especially that part of Colton has been suffering from the biking standpoint for years. And while the grade separations would be welcome and as far as getting train traffic over to that site, we want to make sure that the grade separations are designed for use by humans and not just for moving lots of trucks there and the trains. The streets in South Colton currently are quite fast and dangerous for biking, and which is a shame really, because there's the beautiful river trail right there, which is cut off from the city by those fast streets, and we don't want to worsen the trouble we already have to fix that by building facilities on there that are going to be there for decades as the grade separations. Also, I would like to ensure that, this is of course part of the CEQA process to study the impacts on biking, but make sure that when that's done, that it's studied and that the authority uses the guidelines from Caltrans regarding what type of bike facility is necessary in what locations. Again, like I was saying, the current existing infrastructure there in that area of Colton is seriously lacking. And so we want to make sure that as stuff is being built, that is being built right the first time, and we don't have to have the city go out for active transportation grants to try to fix problems that could have been avoided with construction in the first place. Also, knowing the site, I used to live off Pepper Avenue, and knowing that they've just spent a lot of money rebuilding Pepper Avenue, whatever can be done to create the ingress and egress for the site from Pepper Avenue instead of having it go through the community on Rancho or La Cadena for the trucks would be also appreciated, because we don't, again, the trucks are a big safety hazard to bicyclists and a big contributor to diesel. If we can keep that on Pepper and focus to the site, that would be great. Thank you for the time.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Marvin, for your comments. They have been received and so noted. I do not see any additional hands raised or anyone else with a comment through our chat box. But please know that we will be online here until 12:30 today, at which time we will be adjourning. With the time remaining, I would like to encourage anyone, if you are formulating any thoughts or comments, to please raise your hand, indicate to us through the chat that you are interested in making a comment, and we very much welcome that. Very much appreciate all the comments that have been logged today. The project team is listening. They do make a difference. They will be considered as they continue with the environmental analysis of this important project, and one which, as we are communicating here, is involving a new project area with the two new project components. As we've mentioned earlier, the Los Angeles to Anaheim project section of the California High-Speed Rail Authority has been in the planning stages for a number of years. As it has evolved in its planning, it became apparent, as we indicated earlier, for these two additional project components to be considered. So appropriately, the authority, along with its BNSF railway partner, is communicating out to the public about these additional components. So your comments today about them or any element of the project is exactly what we are looking for and very much appreciated. Please know, again, they will be considered. If I could use the time that we have, and again, we are monitoring our chat and our online presence by you, so we'll be sure to come back to you if we notice any hands being raised or comments coming in. I would like to share with you, since we have a little bit of time, that the outreach for the Los Angeles to Anaheim project section, including the project components, has included the entire geographic area of this project, including the Inland Empire. We recognize that the Inland Empire components of the project are new and have not been included in the past, as they were not part of the project previously. So a concerted effort is being made and will continue to be made to reach out to the public. I'm pleased that several of you did receive notice about today's meeting, and we always experience folks who, for whatever reason, did not get noticed or are not aware. We will continue with our outreach, which includes direct mail. It includes phone calls to key stakeholders in the area and encouraging them to reach out to their networks. We've also walked the areas and done door-to-door distribution to various neighborhoods that we know need to be informed, including the Ayers and Washington businesses in Commerce, in Los Angeles County. Los Nietos area was also, we made sure to cover that. The Colton community, of course, and the Lenwood communities, we additionally sent out notices and walked those areas to make sure that those who are in that immediate area received that notice, as well as other communities in Anaheim, Del Este Mobile Homes Estates, and the Rancho La Paz Mobile Home in Anaheim. So while everyone who is directly affected by the project would receive a direct mail notice through our database, we also are trying to do the extension of individual door-to-door noticing, particularly right now for individuals to receive the information. Banners also went up in the Grand Terrace communities to make sure that folks who are driving by are aware of what we are doing today, and various ad placements were also placed and will continue to be placed in our local newspapers and also digitally. Of course, we are in a formal public comment period right now, so we are required legally to place legal notices, which of course is done, but in addition to that, the display advertisement and the other in-person banners, direct mail notices, door-to-door notices are being done as well. We'd like to also use geographic targeting through geofencing ads socially on our social media. That seems to be effective, picking up people who are physically in the geographic areas that we are targeting. We'll continue to do that, and as much as possible to make sure that folks are aware of this important proposed project. Again, it is a proposed project, and we are at the beginning of the additional documentation necessary in order to do the full analysis of these two additional project components, as well as the project overall. So we do have time. The draft environmental document, as we mentioned earlier, what is scheduled for release next year, and there will be additional opportunity after the draft environmental document for even more specific comments on what is being analyzed. So we do encourage you to follow the project, stay close with us in terms of our project website, and we will be continuing to notice, and we appreciate you all sharing that information with anyone else in your networks to make sure that the public is aware and informed. What I'd like to do now is visit over to our Meet hsrsocal.org website, which is what you should be seeing on your screen right now. This website is a specific website that it was designed to provide specific project information to you all about the Los Angeles to Anaheim project section, including the two new project components. When you first visit the website, you'll see that there is also, let me just do this brand new just so that you can see it. Excuse me. When you first visit the website, you'll see the choice between Burbank to Los Angeles or Los Angeles to Anaheim. The Burbank to Los Angeles project section, just for your information, actually has completed its draft environmental document, and that is currently available for the public to review. The team for the Burbank to Los Angeles project section is now considering all the public comments that are coming in about that document and is being considered. So that's at a phase a little further along than where we are with the Los Angeles to Anaheim section. So this is where we would want you to click through to receive the project information that is specific to the Los Angeles to Anaheim project section, including the 2 additional project components in Colton and Lenwood. So this is the home page here. And if you just scroll down, it gives you that basic background information as we've been describing during our meeting today. And specifically about the notice of preparation and the notice of intent. Again, 2 legal documents that are officially required to inform the public that this project is being considered or completed. And it encourages the public to read about what is being prepared or the agency's intention to create a project. And as I mentioned earlier, these are relatively simple documents to read. The English version of the notice of intent, as you can see here, is a 4-page document, and this is from the Federal Register, which is required for public noticing to indicate the purpose and need of the project, the various alternatives, and all of the public involvement information that we're talking about today, including the formal scoping meeting. I do encourage you, if you have not already, to review that document, and that is, again, what is required on the federal level. On the state level, the sister notice, if you will, to the notice of intent is the notice of preparation. Here it is. It's an 11-page document, and you can see it there. Again, it has very, of course, similar information as the notice of intent. It also, through the state, we're allowed to present a little bit more graphic information, so you see the various maps that you've also saw in our PowerPoint presentation, and that, again, it gets repeated in the notice of preparation, including the 2 project components. So there's multiple ways for you to access and view that information. As I mentioned earlier, the public information is presented in writing in 5 additional languages. So if any of those languages are of interest or needed by any community members of those languages, you can click on those. The various page links are different, as obviously the language is different. This is our Tagalog notice of intent, for example, and it's 7 pages. So we really do encourage folks to access this as it is needed by folks. And for those of you listening who represent any communities where this is beneficial, we appreciate you sharing, downloading, or forwarding this information along. If I could just review with you how we are navigating here on the website. It's organized very similarly as we would organize an in-person public scoping meeting. As we mentioned before, normally these meetings are held in person by the authority, but because of our limited environment right now, we moved all of that project information to an online website, which is what the meethsrsocal.org website is. So it's a virtual meeting, if you will, where we've tried to organize the information in an easy-to-use format across the same set of stations, as we call them, that we would have set up in person. So if I can just walk you through that. Again, if anyone is interested in additional comments or providing your formal comments, please indicate that. We are still monitoring our raise your hands and the comments chat box, so please continue to do that. Meanwhile, let me go ahead and visit our first station here so you can see how this website is organized. This is station 1. Each one of the stations includes videos and relevant documents that pertain to that station. So if you just go scroll down, you'll see any videos that are available and quick links to the documents. All of the stations have this menu here at the bottom, which again shows you the documents that pertain to this station. So in this case, if you click on that, it takes you straight to the notice of intent and notice of preparation documents that I just indicated earlier. This is all available on station 1, including our quick links. And I'll come back to this in a moment as these links are available throughout the website, and you'll see how they'll jump jump you right to that information. Here at the bottom are some additional options to go to the next station. So I'll go to the next station here, which is station number 2. So this is the information that Ofelia presented earlier in our PowerPoint, giving you an understanding of the statewide system that has been proposed, and an update a little bit here on the construction in the Central Valley. For those of you who are not aware, the high-speed rail system has been in the planning stages for quite some time. It was approved by the voters here in California to proceed with planning and funding in 2008. And from that, the various funds have been secured in order to commence construction in the Central Valley. I'll show you in a moment where you can get some additional information about the construction if you're so interested. So here on this website, on station number 2, the various documents that are available are documents that pertain to the statewide system. So you see the map here. I also want to point you toward the business plan. The business plan is currently available for this year, 2020, and it is updated every 2 years since the passage of 2008 of Proposition 1A, which authorized the agency to proceed with planning and construction. The business plan is a report, if you will, or a plan that's presented to the state legislature every 2 years in order to outline the latest in planning, funding, and proposed operations of the project going forward. So it is quite a good resource if you're interested in understanding the big picture of how the state is intending to build a high-speed rail system. This is a very good resource for you to visit to get that information. And again, it's updated every 2 years. Also, there is a construction update, as I was mentioning earlier. This will take you to the main authority website and give you that construction update. There's also additional information here on Station 2 about overall property information. As you can imagine, a project like this does affect local properties. As it moves to an adopted project, this information is very important for local folks to keep in mind and for the authority to communicate to the public about how it handles any property impacts. So you can see the various information sheets here, and staff is always available to answer questions directly. So you can see that here. This type of information is good for us to know for this section. It's very early in the process, but the authority is obviously responsible for communicating this and making sure that the public is aware earlier, very early in the process before those decisions are made. As we mentioned, this project isn't scheduled for a record of decision or a notice of determination until the year 2022. So we're very early in the process, but again, this is what it takes to keep folks informed and involved as we move forward with the planning. So if we move forward to the next station here, it goes to station number 3. And this repeats the information that Diane presented to us earlier in the PowerPoint. It highlights the project section. You can see here the full map of the LA to Anaheim section, which is what we call the main corridor, and the additional project elements in Colton and in Lenwood. So we're trying to make sure that that information is available to everyone in an organized way and easy to find, along with the relevant explanations of what the project is being proposed. So you can see what is presented here for the Colton facility and the Lenwood facility. Again, this is a snapshot of those project components. The full information that is available publicly is in the notice of preparation and the notice of intent. So I will continue to refer you back to those documents for that complete information. I can tell you all have also read those documents because your comments today have been informed and exactly what the authority is looking for from the community to indicate your interests and concerns so that they can be sure to consider that as the environmental analysis is being done. So again, here on Station 3, if you click on the documents, there's some more additional documents as background information for you to have on the project, including the resolution about completing the environmental impact report, environmental impact statement, the fact sheet, which is a very user-friendly set of information for you to read on the project. And you can, if you click on any of the documents, they are downloadable They are saved on an authority Dropbox site, but of course downloadable to your local computer, or you can print it out if you so choose. But it gives you a little bit more context about how this project fits into the overall state proposed system, and you can get some additional information. Again, some of the same information is repeated in multiple ways to make sure that as you receive this information from any of these sources, that the information is consistent and complete. So feel free to check that out. So here we are still in Station 3. So I will return to the main station here and go to our next station, which is Station 4. Station 4 is more specific about scoping, and this is very important for the project team to communicate to you all that we are in a formal public comment period. This language here talks about the description of the project and how we are in a scoping comment period. Both through state and federal law, the agency is required to communicate to the public about this period so that the public can, as many of you have today, expressed any concerns or interests for areas of study or the scope of work that the project team will be doing in order to produce the draft environmental document. I know many of you are familiar with environmental documents and how voluminous, how big these documents can be. So it's quite a process to do the various studies and analysis and consultations with the community and agencies in order to pull together the full information to be in compliance with both state and federal law and issue those draft environmental documents so that they are ready to be reviewed and have complete information for the public. It is quite a process, and for that reason, many months, and in this case years, have passed in order to describe that full project description and to do all of the analytics along the various chapters or topical areas that are required in order for the agency to disclose to the public what those potential impacts are, how they intend to mitigate them, and what other ideas are proposed in order to manage those environmental impacts. That is the point of the state and federal law that is in place, has been in place for many years here in California and our country, and it is required that any project of significance goes through this very consistent process of documenting those impacts and communicating those to the public. So as we mentioned, that is where we are now. That draft document will be released as currently scheduled next spring of 2021. So your comments here today are intended to inform the team about your concerns, your interests. Many of the topics that were raised in today's scoping meeting, I know are included as topic areas for analysis in the environmental document. So additional information on those topics most certainly will be forthcoming as part of the draft environmental document. So let's see where we are here. So this provides in Station 4 just that fuller background about what scoping is. It's important for you all to know, and we've been repeating this a few times, that the due date for the public comments is Thursday, September 24th. We'll be repeating that and showing that on the screen a few more times before we adjourn at 12:30. So this is on Station 5, and if we were in person, we would have a separate set of tables with comment forms for the public to write out their concerns, and we would also have our court reporter or transcriber also available for a person to sit and orally give formal comments about the project, just as we're doing today here online. But of course, because of our virtual format, we are transferring those same abilities here online. So we hope that this is user-friendly for you. We so appreciate the oral comments already received, and I want to just walk through for you the way to access a comment form online and how to submit perhaps by email or other ways. So Station 5 outlines for you how to submit a formal comment on the project. And again, our due date is Thursday, September 24th. Diane reviewed this in our PowerPoint, but I'll repeat it again. You can use a comment form on the authority's website that's accessible here. So if I click on that English button there, it takes you straight to the scoping comment form. Just as we were asking for you today, we need your name, any affiliation. By providing your email or home address, mailing address, this allows us to stay in touch with you. That is included for the record and added to all of our noticing so that our world of interested parties expands as we continue forward. And here you are allowed to submit your formal comment. It asks for 650 words or less, but please know, and we do encourage you to add any additional documents. Here you can select additional documents to upload from your computer and submit as part of your comment, and you can see that submit button there. The comment form is also available in multiple languages, as I mentioned. So again, for any of you online or interested, please share that with any communities who are monolingual, Spanish, Tagalog, Japanese, Korean, or Chinese. We do want to make sure that that information is accessible to them and that their comments and concerns are also considered. All comments can also be submitted by email. So here is the email address, which is los.angeles_anaheim@hsr.ca.gov. If you click on that link, it takes you straight to an email form. And just as we normally would email, that's how you would submit your comment to us. Again, through email, you can upload an attachment, and we do encourage any additional correspondence or other documents to be submitted for the team's consideration. As usual, U.S. mail is a very reliable way to submit a comment. It always has been. So in this case, we would need for any mail correspondence to go directly to our Director of Environmental Services. You can see his name here on the screen, Mr. Mark McLaughlin, Director of Environmental Services. Attention to Los Angeles to Anaheim project section. We do have multiple sections undergoing environmental processes throughout the state, so we want to make sure that you indicate that it's this section that your comment is being submitted. That's in care of the California High-Speed Rail Authority, and our address in Sacramento, where we are collecting all mail comments, is 770 L Street. Again, that's 770 L as in Larry Street, suite number 620. Mail Stop 2, that's MS2, in Sacramento, California, and that zip code is 95814. So that's also another way for you to submit comments. And of course, today, verbal comments are welcome. So any of you who are still online, feel free to raise your hand, and we will be sure to get to that. Finally, here on station number 5, you can see that we also welcome a recorded comment if you so choose through our project helpline. Diane mentioned this earlier, and I'll repeat it again. Our project helpline phone number is 877-669-0494. That is a recorded message. You can please indicate again that your comment that you are leaving is a formal comment for the LA to Anaheim project section scoping, and that will be received and recorded formally. This project helpline is available 24/7 and has been in place for quite a number of years for the project, and will continue to be available for any additional information that may be required from you all even after public scoping period closes. It's where the staff retrieves information, gets back to constituents and stakeholders about the project, and gives you the latest information, whatever you might be seeking. But I do want to indicate and stress that the due date for your formal comments on the scope of work that is being proceeded for the Los Angeles to Anaheim project section. That due date is Thursday, September 24th, 2020. It's very important for the authority and for any agency to indicate an end date to comment periods so that the team can be sure that they've got everything, and that then they are considering that as they proceed with the environmental document. So we really want to get the word out as much as possible over this 30-day public comment period, that people know that you can comment anytime now, but please no later than midnight on Thursday, September 24th, 2020. I would like to then go to our next station. Here we are on station number 6, which talks to you a little bit more about the California High-Speed Rail program overall and related projects. So if you scroll down, you can see how there are various partnerships with local transportation agencies, in this case, MetroLink and Metro here in the Southern California area, where the authority has partnerships to pursue joint projects that benefit both local projects as well as the high-speed rail system. We encourage you to check that out. Again, the Documents tab takes you to various fact sheets that may be of interest to learn a little bit more in depth about the high-speed rail program and its impact locally. So I will go back to station number 6. And then that is our final station, and it returns us home. So in addition to the 6 stations, we have a Contact Us button, which takes you straight to those various same formats of email, our voice line, and we are still promoting, obviously, or after today this will come down, but we've been promoting our public scoping meetings. I'd like to also indicate here that we welcome office appointments from any of you who are interested to have one-on-one time with staff to ask maybe any more specific questions. Again, we are early in the process, so a lot of the impact analysis or specific plans locally are not yet known, and that's in fact what's going to be studied. But having a one-on-one conversation is really what we would be doing if we were in person. So we wanted to really extend that opportunity to you by scheduling an appointment with staff directly. This can be done by using this form here. But if I can just announce, there's 4 dates that the staff have outlined, 2-hour time periods for you to schedule an appointment with staff, including the following 4 dates. Friday, September 11th from 1 to 3 o'clock p.m. Excuse me, I'm correcting myself. Here we are on the 12th. That was yesterday. So this has not yet been updated on the website. So we did have appointments yesterday on September 11th. So the next available office hour is this coming Monday, September 14th, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Then again next Wednesday, September 16th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And then the following Tuesday, September 22nd from 12 noon to 2 p.m. And then again, as we mentioned, our public comment period closes on Thursday, September 24th. We ask for everything to be postmarked or submitted by midnight on that day. I would like to say that staff has been very accommodating in receiving additional requests for dates or times that might be more convenient for you. So if these dates don't work for you, please use the form in which you just click here to sign up for either of those dates or to indicate to the team that you're interested in a different date, and we'll be sure to get back to you and make sure that that is scheduled. All right, so let's go back to our set of options just to finish up with the website. Our scoping meetings were promoted here through this link. You should know a telephone town hall was conducted a couple of weeks ago on this section, which was another opportunity, not a formal comment period or comment activity, but just a phone call to answer questions from the public. And those recordings, if you're interested, are included here, where we were able to answer some general and other questions from the public. And that was another way for us to reach out to folks who may not have been involved with the project before by giving them a phone call and asking them to participate in a town hall meeting. So those are there. And then, of course, we were promoting our various scoping meetings from Thursday and today. So that is that link. And then our office hours tab, as I already mentioned to you, it was available here. So we encourage you to reach out to us if you have any follow-up questions from today's scoping meeting or anything else that we can be of assistance to you. Okay, so I am going to now switch back to our PowerPoint and check our chat to see if we have any additional comments. So allow me a moment to share that screen and double check our database here. Okay, so a couple of comments or requests have come in, which I'd like to share with you. First, from Robert Frampton, an additional comment from Mr. Frampton, who would like to state for the record that the environmental impact report should also include interrelationships of the new Colton rail facility with the future phase 2 of the high-speed rail authority, which will go through this area towards Riverside. So if I can just illuminate that for 1 second for benefit of the audience. If I have it correctly, so here we are at the very tail end of the Los Angeles to Anaheim section. So the request is for the authority to indicate the relationship between the Colton facility and this yellow phase 2 section of the high-speed rail authority in the future. So Mr. Frampton, thank you for your comment, and we'll be sure to consider that. We are also being requested to state for the record, so Yasmin Angelidis, thank you for your comment that I'm reading here now. You would like us to state for the record how many participants are on both the English and Spanish calls today. We have a total of 47 English participants, and as of right now, no additional participants via our Spanish line. We're continuing our outreach, and hopefully that will be helpful for all audiences. I just also want to indicate that as I just visited with you or navigated for you on the website, that we encourage folks to access the information through our website. Our telephone town hall was completed in both English and Spanish. Those recordings are there if you're interested. And we definitely welcome and encourage your comments through any of the formats in any of those languages. But again, by our due date of Thursday, September 24th. I think I've covered that, and staff, please indicate to me if there's anything else that we need to indicate for the record. I believe we've covered all of the comments that we've received through our chat, and all the hands that have been raised on the line, but we are still monitoring. So just a time check, we're approaching 12:15. We have another 15 minutes to be with you here today. So in case we get any additional participants, I'd like to encourage you to raise your hand or just indicate to us via the chat any additional comments that you have. Meanwhile, what I'm going to do is just navigate a little bit through our PowerPoint presentation, just for in case we have any newcomers. The PowerPoint that we presented today will be available to you online along with today's recording. The PowerPoint or our presentation today really was intended to provide the big picture of the high-speed rail program overall, and then narrow in on the specifics of the Los Angeles to Anaheim project section, including and specifically the two new project components in Colton and Lenwood that have to deal with the freight operations and the impact that the high-speed rail proposed project between Los Angeles and Anaheim has on that Losan corridor, the rail corridor that currently exists and is in operation between Los Angeles and Anaheim, which currently operates both freight and passenger service. This is where the high-speed rail additional service is being proposed, and as a result, obviously has impacts on those rail operations. As a result, the freight operations are being considered, and we do not want to impair the goods movement movement that is necessary here in Southern California, and in fact, for the western part of the United States. The ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach receive volumes of goods from throughout the world into these ports. And of course, our system has to have the ability to move those goods via rail and truck traffic. In this case, our rail operations is what's being considered as the high-speed rail line is being proposed between Los Angeles and Anaheim. And those freight operations there through BNSF are being considered. And for that reason, the two additional project components are being proposed as a way to manage the volume of traffic for both freight operators and our passenger operators through that section. So that is what our presentation today was intended to outline for you. We also reviewed for you additional information about the Phase 1 and Phase 2 projects throughout the state, as we talked about. As you can see, this is a long-term project and one that has been in the planning stages for quite some time and will continue in terms of its construction as funding is available. But the planning here in Southern California is very important to tee up, if you will, the various sections where high-speed rail is envisioned to assist with managing the various demands for transit here in Southern California. So these planning documents, these environmental documents that take months and years to prepare is what is being discussed now. And for that reason, we're having today's meeting to ensure that that full disclosure of information about what is being proposed in relation to the LA to Anaheim section is known and involves our Inland Empire communities, as it's quite unique in terms of it being encompassed as part of a project that's operating between LA and Anaheim, but has impacts in terms of freight operations in order to accommodate the full vision of high-speed rail between Los Angeles and Anaheim. So that's what we're doing here today. I believe we have one additional comment on our chat. So I'm going to leave our screen where it is here and then read our chat comment that's just received. We do have a few minutes still until 12:30. So thank you very much for still staying active there and submitting your comments. So for the record, again, I see it's from Mr. Brian Yanity. The comment is, the environmental impact report should also include an analysis and investigation of short-haul freight rail between the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach and Hobart Yard and the Inland Empire as an alternative to truck drayage, that is train-to-train movement of containers instead of truck-to-train. So Brian, thank you very much for that comment. It has been received and recorded and will be considered as part of the analysis. Thank you very much. Let's see. I do not see any additional hands raised or comments. So what I'm going to do is just continue walking you through. In case we have any newcomers joining us here at the end of our meeting, we have another few minutes to go. We will be talking about Phase 1 and Phase 2 very regularly as we talk about high-speed rail. These are the planning phases of the project, and as you can imagine, with such a significant geographic area that the state represents, the project needed to be split into two phases. So this helps with the planning, the funding, and the construction. So you see Phase 1 and Phase 2 here with years out in terms of the planning and ultimate construction. That is what the business plan is really good for. It has the various timelines or horizons for some of the planning that is going on now. So I do really encourage you to visit and take a look at those plans or those timelines on the business plan if you're interested in seeing kind of those horizons going forward. I would also like to mention that videos of today's meeting will be also posted to the High Speed Rail Authority's YouTube channel. If you haven't visited it already, the authority does post its various videos about construction, all of its news media, meetings, public meetings like this on its YouTube channel. It's a real easy way for folks to access video information either through their computers or obviously through our phones. So we really do encourage you to save that channel as a way to keep up with the various information, particularly as it relates to the Los Angeles to Anaheim section or any of the sections here in Southern California. It does take a moment to get those uploaded, so we expect that video posting will be done on Monday. So be sure to check back if you're so interested. We mentioned earlier in our presentation that the authority has partnerships with various agencies locally, and this slide here indicates the various funding that has been made available from the authority to local partners through various methods to invest into the infrastructure even prior to high-speed rail being built here on the ground in Southern California and in other places throughout the state. As you can imagine, high-speed rail does not exist independently, and in fact, it is planned to be integrated into the existing transit services that exist on the ground throughout the state. So those planning partnerships with our local transit agencies, with our local cities and town councils are very important in order to remain apprised of each other's plans. Many of them short-term, more short-term than what the high-speed rail is planning because it takes longer to put high-speed rail into our infrastructure. So it's very important for the authority to communicate with its local partners, other rail operators, and obviously in this case to establish a formal partnership with BNSF Railway to plan these projects in a more comprehensive fashion. It cannot be done in isolation, as our best urban and regional planners know. We have to look at that big picture, and it is a team of planning experts who have always continued to look at that throughout the state in order to really think through the best way to bring in a high-speed rail system, which unfortunately does not exist here in the United States, but has been a proven technology for many countries throughout the world for many decades. And we've learned actually quite a bit from how rail operators conduct this technology, this high-speed technology in many other countries throughout Asia, throughout Europe, that have informed the California High-Speed Rail Authority to bring a world-class system here to California. What's unique about California is that we have quite a lot of jurisdictions and of course our local regulation that we absolutely need to comply with. So it takes quite some time to do that advanced thinking, that advanced planning with our local agencies and partners, including our public and communities. So I'll go over to a particular slide in our presentation that talks a little bit about that. The authority has used the approach of this three universes, if you will, because it does its planning not in isolation. Here on this screen, you'll see this circle described as project objectives, and this is the instruction or the requirement that the legislation has set forth to the staff of the California High-Speed Rail Authority to complete this project per the objectives as stated in the legislation, so that the standards of safety and design and the latest in high-speed rail technology is used and brought to the system. That has to be done in concert with compliance with our local environmental resources, as we've talked about, and we are very appreciative. Our local agencies are already commenting on our formal public comment process. These interactions and these consultations are very important relationships for the authority to use to do a comprehensive planning of a system like this. So our environmental resources, protecting the environment, protecting our community, figuring out the win-win solutions of how to bring a high-speed rail system into an area and maximize the benefit and the safety and security for all those involved. It's threading a needle, but in fact there is a common place that has been the experience of the authority to find where and how a project can be planned so as to maximize that. And the community has been an underlying consistent consideration for the authority and all of its partners in talking about how to bring forward, again, a very popular and easy to use system such as high-speed train. If any of you have used a high-speed train or ridden on one in other parts of the world, it's a very positive experience. It's quiet, it's fast, it's fun. But to create that type of infrastructure, including the world-class stations and the access points to the system, is quite an undertaking. And here in California, especially here in Southern California, where we have a built environment, it's not always easy to plop down a sizable system, such as a high-speed rail system, into a built environment. So for that reason, existing transportation corridors are checked out first in order to lie in tracks that are already within existing right-of-way to the fullest degree possible, and for us to maximize the benefit of bringing in high-speed rail into local communities, such as grade separations. In many of our communities where current both passenger and freight rail traffic, when they go through cross streets, that is an impact to local traffic that has to stop in order for rail traffic to go by. And one of the benefits of high-speed rail in the communities where the high-speed rail is planned is that high-speed rail must be grade separated, as we describe it. So that means the grade of the local street and the grade of the rails have to be separated. And that is specifically for the purpose of safety and for efficiency of the system and benefit locally. So local auto traffic, pedestrian traffic, bicyclists can cross the path of a rail corridor without interacting with it. And that's once those grade separations are built across the various intersections that we've identified in the project, that's an immediate benefit to the local area where traffic, pedestrians, bicyclists don't have to wait or have the ability to cross a high-speed rail train. And it's not just the high-speed rail train where they're separated from, obviously, it's also our Metrolink trains, our Amtrak trains, or our other freight operators where the entire rail corridor or streets are separated from the ability to cross the traffic of a rail system. So this is being planned again throughout the state. The community of Fresno, for example, has already benefited from some of these grade separations, and on and on. So that is something that is a feature of the high-speed rail set of design guidelines that allows it to operate and achieve those higher speeds without impact to an area. We are approaching the end of our meeting, so I would like to take this opportunity to encourage any of you to still raise your hand if there's a comment that you would like to place or to use our chat function. I will, as we are approaching the end of our meeting, bring back on the screen here the multiple ways for you to provide comments to us on this project. Again, this is a significant and important program that is being proposed across the 3 counties, a lot of jurisdictions, a lot of communities. So we're doing our best to reach out to you. We appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. We appreciate you sharing the information with any others who are interested in commenting or at a minimum need to be aware of this proposed program to improve the availability of local transit in our area and to provide people an access point to get to be part of a statewide transportation system that is being planned for the state of California. As we've mentioned earlier, we are in a 30-day public comment period that's specifically intended to allow you to comment to the authority about the scope of the project that is being proposed. So there is still time, and we really encourage you to think through what is being proposed as a project and any concerns or thoughts or requests that you might have that will help help the project team in conducting its analysis. It is very busy at work now and will continue to consider all of the comments that are being provided as it completes its analysis and prepares a draft environmental document, again, that's scheduled for release next spring of 2021. And we will be sure to update our project website, continuing our notice, and appreciate any assistance that you can offer in extending that to your respective communities and constituents. The comment period again ends next Thursday, September 24th, and anytime by then, by midnight, we appreciate anything that you can consider to submit that will be considered, and everything is considered. We outlined the various other ways for you to comment verbally here today on the authority's website, by emailing us, by U.S. mail, and of course, by giving us a phone call. All comments as they are received are equal, so it doesn't matter what format you use. We appreciate any method of comment that you prefer in order to communicate with us. So I see our project team has joined us again. They've been listening. I've just been walking you through all of our project information as we're waiting for additional comments. So I know I'll go ahead and say on behalf of the project team, thank you very much for taking the time to be with us here today. Continue to follow us, and we appreciate you spreading the news. And I'm sure each of you will also want to extend your thank you. Diane?
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for spending your Saturday morning with us. I hope you enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Ophelia? I know we can't hear you, Ophelia. There you go. I'm not sure what happened with your audio, but I'm going to speak for you, Ophelia. We couldn't hear what you said. I know your heart. You are saying thank you, and I know we'll see you again on our meeting. So we appreciate, from Sacramento, Ophelia speaking for us on behalf of the program. Tyler?
Just want to say thank you, everybody. Enjoy your weekends.
Yeah, thanks for your work, Tyler. And Lena, thank you so much. Please close it up here.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate the time that everybody took today to bring your comments and the time that you took to learn more about the project. And we're looking forward to working with you further in the future. Have a good weekend.
Thank you to all of our project team. They've been working real hard to make sure that they're listening and answering questions. I encourage you to schedule any appointments, as we've mentioned, and to just continue following the project. So on behalf of the project team, and thank you to all of our staff who made this meeting possible to you, we thank all of you for joining. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you.